Harry and Meghan Markle's surrogacy scandal has entered the mainstream media domain.
Did you think it was a parody? Because I thought that this was AI. I thought this cannot be real.
The reason I didn't think it was AI is because it looks like the stomach is fake, where the baby, I swear that's the first thing I thought.
They say every fairy tale begins with once upon a time, but in this particular royal story, it seems to start with depending on which interview you're watching.
And this is from a woman who attacks her father mercilessly in the series.
When it comes to one of life's most natural experiences, pregnancy, the narrative has somehow transformed into something resembling a Netflix anthology series. One moment, it's all glowing motherhood and wellness routines. The next, it's a harrowing ordeal that defies comprehension.
Meghan at the Albert Hall. How many weeks pregnant was she supposed to be? Was it about 8 weeks? And she looks as if she's at least 5 months pregnant.
Comprehension. Even those who support her whisper that the story shifts faster than London's unpredictable weather. Sources close to royal observers joke that tracking this pregnancy timeline requires advanced degrees in detective work and plot analysis. One moment, she's peacefully preparing for motherhood in California sunshine. The next, she's recounting trauma that allegedly surfaced years after the fact.
Meghan Markle told the world she was a fraud. Perhaps we should have all listened.
And standing right in the center of this narrative whirlwind is Tom Bower, the biographer who never directly accuses, yet somehow leaves audiences gripping their teacups in stunned disbelief.
And that ridiculous story about how they first met, the whole thing was a tissue of inaccuracies.
Bower doesn't launch accusations, he documents. He quietly illuminates the details that simply don't align, then allows viewers to reach their own conclusions. Because sometimes the most devastating exposure isn't what's explicitly stated, it's what remains deliberately unsaid.
And also, why is the belly several shades browner than anywhere else? It's not supposed to be brown.
And when it comes to this pregnancy narrative, according to Bower's meticulous research, there's considerably more mystery than maternity. From the surface, the pregnancy story appeared flawless. Designer maternity wear, radiant magazine interviews, and a royal heir on the way.
Do you remember Meghan actually refused to use the hospital that was usually used by royals and refused to use all of the normal medical staff? And there was all of the weirdness over the timing of the birth of Art.
Yet, as multiple sources reveal, the same story somehow evolved dramatically with each retelling. What began as a cheerful chronicle of baby preparations and wellness smoothies gradually metamorphosed into something deeper, darker, and infinitely more perplexing. Public observers noticed her tone shifting with each new media platform, as though the narrative was being rewritten in real time. When examining these pregnancy timelines, even the most dedicated royal followers have needed to create detailed charts. The dates surrounding announcements, public appearances, and supposed delivery periods feel like puzzle pieces from entirely different boxes.
They were like, I just saw this picture I'd forgotten about when you were so pregnant with Archie. I mean, I gained 65 pounds with both pregnancies.
Oh my God, you're so tiny.
And you're in these 5-inch, I always just wear my 5-inch pointy-toed stilettos. They're like, you have the most enormous bump, and your tiny little ankles are bracing themselves in these high heels, but all of my weight was in the front.
Right.
So you're just going, how on earth? Like people,
How on earth?
How on earth am I not just tipping, face planting? It's like, I'm always clinging very closely to my husband. Please don't let me fall.
Yeah.
In one interview describes her as newly pregnant, yet it aired months after the birth. Another recalls nesting activities during a period that conflicts with the official palace calendar. Tom Bower identified something crucial. These blurred overlaps generate more confusion than clarity and chill. The dates aren't necessarily incorrect. They simply bend just enough to accommodate whatever mood the moment requires.
It's actually torture to listen to that woman now, because every other word out of her mouth is a lie. None of it really makes sense.
If the timeline inconsistencies raised eyebrows, the medical details made people lean forward in their seats. According to sources familiar with these debates, the accounts of hospital experiences read less like medical documentation and more like evolving screenplays. One version painted a calm, almost glamorous delivery, complete with laughter, lighthearted moments, and even a casual fast food stop afterward. Yet in subsequent interviews, this same event transformed into a tale of medical urgency, marked by alleged complications and significant distress.
There is no way on earth that any doctor on this earth would allow a woman with a geriatric pregnancy, high risk, and with 2 epidurals to leave the hospital within an hour of giving birth, which means that the doctors would have had to deliver Archie, spank his ass, wipe Meghan Markle, put her on a van or whatever, and just send her off without testing to see whether there was any nerve damage, because epidurals do.
By the time public discussions about these pregnancies resumed, something fundamental had shifted, not in the facts, but in the emotional framing. Sources note how each new telling carried a distinctly different tone, as if every appearance demanded a fresh version of vulnerability. The once carefree, yoga-practicing expectant mother now spoke in somber tones about pressure, pain, and private battles. This wasn't mere recollection, it was strategic reinvention. Tom Bower observed how emotion became the most powerful tool in the arsenal.
Skin, when it stretches, gets lighter. It doesn't get darker. Does she think that is where 65 pounds of weight was carried?
Sometimes the loudest elements of any story are the silences between sentences. And according to royal commentary sources, these strategic silences have become nearly as notable as the speeches themselves. For every emotional detail shared in interviews, there's another moment carefully avoided, a detail omitted, a timeline left deliberately vague, a question smoothly redirected with a practiced smile. Those gaps, Tom Bower suggests, are where the genuine intrigue resides. He doesn't accuse, he observes savagely. He demonstrates how selective storytelling can prove more powerful than complete transparency.
Here, the doctor talks about both the children, and listen to what she says.
So you tell me to tell you something that maybe a dozen people actually know that's going to come out very soon. Okay. Meghan Markle, the reason why you watch her interviews and she just seems off. She's owned by a pharmaceutical company. The 2 children that she had, they're not hers. She didn't have them with Harry. And how her and Harry met is that she's a prostitute.
Tom Bower doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't point fingers. He simply arranges the facts in chronological order and allows the silence between them to speak volumes. Sources describe his approach as almost surgical in precision versus Jagal. He doesn't label anyone dishonest. He merely presents enough inconsistencies to make audiences wonder. It's a methodology so refined that legal experts allegedly admire how he walks the razor-thin line between legitimate exposure and defamation.
That if I was going to go into business, it would be fashion or beauty. But those 5 years at home, I wasn't running around wearing beautiful outfits. I was probably in Birkenstocks and sweats like the rest of us, especially during COVID, or just barefoot at home.
When Tom Bower finally reveals his findings, the revelation isn't a sensational exposé about hidden documents or secret files. It's something far more psychological. According to sources close to his research, Bower's genuine discovery is that these stories don't evolve accidentally. They adapt strategically. Each retelling appears designed to serve a new purpose. Sympathy during controversy, strength during backlash, empowerment during promotional interviews. It's not fabrication, he suggests, it's calculated strategy.
She was stupid enough to show her skinny arms. Well, if the weight didn't go on her arms, it didn't go on her face, it didn't go on her legs, it didn't go on her bust, where did that 65 pounds go?
Trevor put an article out there that Meghan had a hysterectomy and couldn't have children, and that was a big issue in their relationship. So that says a lot to the fake royal kids right now, because obviously they couldn't have come out of her. So that's something that she obviously is going to have to deal with.
Once Bower's revelations entered public consciousness, the narrative stopped being his alone and became everyone's obsession. According to media analysts, this pregnancy story evolved into a living phenomenon across digital platforms, spreading through YouTube channels, podcasts, and social media threads like wildfire that refuses to extinguish itself. Each clip, each quote, each "did you hear what he discovered" became fuel for a cultural debate that shows no signs of dying down.
Anecdotal experience with my wife, who was very, very large during pregnancy, the idea of her moving like that would have been impossible. She just couldn't have done it. So, she was pale, she was swollen, she was very large at the time. The idea of her getting low like that, I just don't know if she physically could have done it. So it is shocking to me. It does look very strange.
If the children were born that way, it would mean that Archie and Lily were no longer to be allowed in the line of succession.
And here's the thing about this story. It never truly ends. It simply changes shape. Every new interview, every carefully selected detail, every well-timed silence keeps the audience perpetually guessing. Tom Bauer didn't merely expose inconsistencies, he exposed an entire cycle. A cycle where emotion replaces evidence and attention replaces accountability. But as the world continues dissecting every move, one truth remains undeniable: the ability to control a narrative better than almost anyone else in the public sphere. Whether you perceive it as manipulation or mastery, it's impossible to look away.